All right, guys, it's finally our time to get Doom Eternal with ray tracing turned on. We've been waiting ever since 29th. Wait, what is that? There's some new news? Okay, let's check it out. Oh my gosh, they said that? Oh, okay, fine. Guys, Hardware Canucks officially just came out and called themselves fanboys. Hey guys, Turk here. Hope you're having a great day. Like I said, man, I've been patiently waiting for ray tracing support to come to Doom Eternal. When I interviewed Marty and Hugo, the directors with Doom Eternal, back at 2019 at QuakeCon, the year of Doom, they mentioned it was on their roadmap, but due to COVID and all that, it's been delayed, but we're finally getting our chance to test it. So I'm patiently waiting for my Steam library list to finally say update now, because I really want to play the game. But, I'm a little bit slow here at work, and, we're just waiting for this thing to go. So I thought it'd be a good time to watch a couple different YouTube videos. And sure enough, Hardware Canucks just dropped their latest FSR or FidelityFX Super Resolution video, where they covered the RX 580 as well as the GTX 1060. Now, if you are a subscriber to the channel, I appreciate y'all very much for coming back. But if you're not, definitely hit the subscribe button down below. Last week's video, we covered the RX 580 in great detail, and we covered a whole bunch of other stuff regarding some of the recommendations I have for that graphics card, as well as some of the limitations with FSR. So before you continue watching this video, definitely hit the card up at the top right. So as I was watching through the Hardware Canucks video with FSR, they started to raise a couple different red flags, which, they were addressing some of the issues with their last video, which is pretty, commendable for them. But as the video progressed, there was just more and more red flags being popped up, in my opinion. And sure enough, towards the end of the video, Hardware Canucks, or maybe at least just this reviewer for them, they actively go out and admit that they are a fanboy. And I'm not making this up. You can go to the time code. I'll post the link down below. And that is pretty alarming because, it's one of the bigger TechTuber channels out there when it comes to PC hardware reviews. And when you've got one of those outlets actively admitting that they're a fanboy towards a particular company or solution, that's not a very objective opinion when it comes to this type of technology. So today we're going to go through their video, and we're going to go item by item throughout the video and address some of the concerns that I saw and give you guys a little bit of a reality check when it comes to FSR with the RX 580. All right, so the first thing I wanted to highlight here, and that's like time code 25 right off the bat, is Hardware Canucks actually goes and talks about some of their hardware choices they had with this particular review.
A lot of you guys in the initial video ended up saying, look, why did you go with such high-end GPUs? And truthfully, we really didn't. So we didn't go with the RX 6000 series or RTX 3000 series. We went with this guy, which is the RX 5700 XT and the NVIDIA RTX 2070 Super.
Now, right out of the gate, I actually highlighted this in my RX 580 video as well, because a lot of people have been mentioning that FSR is truly meant to breathe additional life into older GPUs, as well as to offset some of the ray tracing hit when it comes to performance. And yeah, I saw a lot of people using 6000 series or 3000 series GPUs. But the GPUs he's highlighting here are not, low-end GPUs either. The 5700 XT is arguably one of the better 1440p contenders that are out there. And the 2070 is arguably a direct competitor with the 5700 XT. So if you go back and look at my GPU tier list video, they could be considered, upper mid-tier or upper mid-range graphics cards at least, if not lower top-tier graphics cards at best. Obviously the 2080 Super is going to be better, 6700 XT is going to be better, but these are still really well-equipped GPUs, and on the surface, they shouldn't require any upscaling to play any games at 1440p, let alone 1080p. I think the only real instance you would want to test it out would be if you wanted to try out 4K, which may or may not be a good experience for you, but you could try it out.
The Steam hardware survey, so we came up with this. One of these is the famous GTX 1060. Right. This is a 6GB version, but that's all we sort of had in our back room right now. And the other one is the most popular AMD card on the charts, and that would be this. It is the RX 580.
These are two really popular graphics cards that a lot of people are using. Unfortunately, though, Hardware Canucks doesn't tell us the rest of the test system they're using. Are they using a 5950X like Hardware Unboxed uses? Are they using an 11900K? Are they overclocking to 5 gigahertz? We have no idea because they don't list it either in the description or in their previous video. And without that kind of information, it's going to be very difficult to recommend that people use this particular graphics card solution with this software solution, because they could be getting different results. So it's entirely possible with my my Ryzen 5 3600 that I was hitting some sort of a CPU bottleneck, but without telling your users that's what you're using, it's going to mislead a lot of people. And if they're only going to be watching your particular channel for your results, you're giving them results that they're not going to get. And that, of course, is going to leave a sour taste in their mouth.
Now, that has caused a little bit of controversy because it does add a little bit of softness to the image. But at the same time, I wanted to also bring up a couple of points that were also brought up in that video that you have to understand.
All right, so let me scroll back a little bit. There we go. So completely 100% agree. There's a whole bunch of controversy that's out there right now. People are saying FSR is excellent. It gives you great image quality. And there's other people that are saying, well, not so fast. You know, it's not really all that great tech. But unfortunately, the example he's using here is comparing the two settings that actually look pretty decent. And he's also using the game where FSR actually looks the most decent, because let's be honest, guys, not a lot of people are playing Terminator, and it's a pretty old graphical style to begin with. So there's not a lot of detail going on in this scene, and there's not a lot of action going on in this particular shot. It's a darker game in general. So it's like, this isn't really a good representation of what FSR is able to do when it comes to that reconstruction process. However, I will give props to Hardware Canucks here, because they actually do admit that balanced mode and performance mode are definitely not recommended when it comes to image quality. So hats off to them for that. But I really do wish that they would stick with that recommendation, because as we go into some of the performance charts later, if you take those particular settings out of the way, that's going kind of counterproductive to what they're trying to accomplish here.
That we've seen with FSR right now, or any sharpening process and upscaling. On the other hand, personally, I don't think that
look at that picture on the left.
Performance
it looks so good.
FSR are worthwhile. You really need to stick to ultra quality or quality to really make it worth your time.
Excellent.
On the other hand, in every single case I've looked at so far, turning FSR to quality mode ends up being way better than simply modifying the in-game settings to get similar frame rates as to what FSR offers.
All right, now, I completely agree with some of what he just said. We actually went and compared Epic against the high quality detail settings in our particular game, Godfall, for example here. And what I found is if you go to FSR mode at quality, or if you go to FSR at ultra quality mode with the high detail settings, you're able to get the same frame rate as if you were going to be running FSR at balanced mode with the Epic detail settings. But unfortunately, in this particular screen grab, they're not telling us what quality setting they're using or the performance levels that they're getting. With the FSR, they could be running at, high detail settings like I recommend, and this could just be a potato shot that just goes to prove their point, and that is very disingenuous. They should have identified which setting they were using here, because let's be honest, guys, this does look pretty bad, but it's probably the low detail setting. And if you go and look at the performance chart that we have, I think we're getting close to, 80 or 90 FPS with the low quality setting. So to some people, this would be completely acceptable because it's a sharper image and it's getting you the higher refresh rates that you're looking to get on your particular monitor. And that might be a balance that's worth trading off for some people. So they left a lot of information on this scene that could hopefully guide people that are watching their video to be better informed.
There's always improvements being made to the technology. And yes, I'm going to bring this up again. The controversy about image quality is going to be there. But personally, I don't know about you guys. When I'm playing a game, I'm not pixel peeping at every single little leaf, every single little flower. I'm playing the game, and a lot of the times, that means that I'm running through it a lot faster than things can process. Exactly,
which is why, and I have this problem with a lot of the other TechTuber videos out there, Why are you zooming into your footage? Why are you slowing the motion down? Why are you doing like the most static scenes possible? If you're going to be playing a game with FSR engaged, there needs to be some amount of motion. There needs to be some change in the scenery. So I completely agree with what he's saying here. But show us what the game looks like with all the different quality settings engaged, because I think that's where a lot of the FSR discussions actually breaks down. Because I've been playing Godfall here for close to about 24 to 28 hours. I've been trying to get all the different detail settings. I've been testing on all sorts of different types of hardware, and what he's saying here is completely accurate. If you're looking at stationary images, you may be biased one way or the other, but once you get into real gameplay, that's where it all actually shines or falls apart. All right, so now as we get into the benchmark data, I'm going to re-highlight what I said at the beginning of the video. They're not telling us the CPU they're running. They're not telling us the type of memory they're running. We're actually going to pause it here at the end of Godfall. And there's not a lot of information here that could help us bridge the gap between what they're testing versus what we are using. Because if they're running like a 10900K overclocked to 5.2 gigahertz, they could be giving overly optimistic data results for their testing, which doesn't necessarily translate or transfer to all the other viewers. If you're running like a 10400F, 3600 in my case, I'll try and see if I can superimpose their data with my data. I'm seeing significantly less results, and here they're recommending you use the ultra quality preset, where in fact, I actually think you have to go to either the quality or the balanced mode in order to get to that 60 FPS threshold. And let's also not forget to mention, all of this testing is at 1440p. And guys, let's be honest with ourselves. Are we expecting our RX 580s or GTX 1060s to be running at 1440p? Maybe that's what they're trying to say here, is that, you know, by using FSR, you can start to play at that resolution. But that's not where these cards are meant to be played. And if your system's not set up for it, you don't have the same config as them, people could be very disappointed with the results they get from FSR, and that's just not really accurate reporting, in my opinion. One thing to say, though, is that they are testing all the different games, which I don't have the funds or the time to test all the games. And it looks like FSR is able to produce some pretty impressive frame rates, which is what I also reported in my reporting. So I'm really glad that they are testing all the games. I just wish there was additional detail in their charts so that we could bridge that gap between our system and their system. Okay, and if you manage to stick towards the end of their video, they do drop the bomb that they actually did this testing with their GTX 970, and I actually put mine back in my cabinet. I also did the same testing with the GTX 970, and they're sounding really great that this kind of technology is still working. However, there are a whole bunch of caveats here that I'm actually in the process of investigating, talking with the developers from Godfall as well as AMD. But there's actually some issues when it comes to using these lower VRAM based cards with these higher detail settings. Because what's happening is when I run the test, and this is all new information, sometimes you're able to get these impressive frame rates, regardless of what Hardware Canucks reports or whatever. But I would say either between 25 and 50% of the time, the cards just get throttled extremely. They're not able to run at the advertised or at the expected frame rates. And I do believe that's because of the VRAM capacity. And what's ending up happening, again, I don't know if it's a bug in the game or an FSR, is there's all sorts of PCIe traffic that's being generated and is causing the game to throttle itself. So if you guys want me to continue going down that rabbit hole, definitely hit subscribe down below, hit a thumb up. That way I know and have some firepower to go towards these people to say, fix your stuff, because if I'm going to be playing Godfall at 30 FPS, it doesn't matter if it's 1080p, 1440p, or 4K. It's a bad experience. Fix your bugs, man. All right, so here we are at the end of the video, and Mike's going to be kind of summing it all up for us, and this is where I think it comes to a critical point where I think it's really bad that what they're about to admit.
That brings me to the end of this video, and I'll be honest with all of you guys. I went into it hoping for the best for FSR because, yes, in certain modes, there's always going to be that question about image quality, but I'm actually a fan of it. And if you want to call me a fanboy because of that, that's totally fine. But I went into this actually hoping for the best, even for this card, the GTX 970. I mean,
there's not much else to it. Now, I've been trying to comment on a lot of the different YouTubers stuff, trying to grow and expand my audience a little bit. And one thing I mentioned to Hardware Unboxed is it's one thing to be biased towards a particular opinion, and that's completely acceptable. And it's actually commendable that you're able to own up to that bias and accept that bias. But unfortunately, as a reviewing channel, you have to take that bias into account with what you're saying and actually kind of tone down what you're saying, because like we said throughout this video, there's several different details in the video that are misleading towards the performance and the quality of FSR, FidelityFX Super Resolution, which is disingenuous. And if you're a viewer and you don't have a lot of money and you've got this 1060 that you got from a buddy, you throw it into your system, you engaged FSR, and you're like, oh my gosh, it looks like total crap. There's all sorts of different situations where if you take this video at face value, the bias and not addressing the bias and properly doing kind of like an unbiased generalization towards the end, it's not good. It's not a good take. And unfortunately, this video is going to be seen by probably tens to hundreds, maybe even 1 million people. And that's why I wanted you guys to take a look at this video, because as he was saying those words in the video, I just couldn't hold it out anymore, guys, because if all of y'all are doing is looking at a single particular news source for your information, you're going to be heavily misinformed when it comes to the reality of things. And I behoove you guys to go and watch all of the different FSR videos, because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to be turning on FSR, and you're going to have to make the decision if FSR on versus off, quality versus balanced. All of these options are going to be up to you to decide in the first case. And I would hate for y'all to have going into that experiment on your own to be kind of misled on what you should be expecting, because having honest expectations is always best in my book, and that's how I like to structure my reviews when it comes to my stuff. So definitely recommend you guys go and watch all of the FSR content that's out there, including mine, because my RX 580 take, I'm actually really positive when it comes to FSR, but there are some critiques and there are some issues with the technology that, again, I kind of echo what Hardware Canucks is saying. Hopefully it gets ironed out throughout the time, because we are just in the early days of FSR, so we can be optimistic as to what the technology shows, but that's why we got to be honest in our reporting, and we got to be honest going forward. So thank you guys for watching the video. Leave a comment down below what you guys think of the video, as well as, giving a thumbs up. I angered a lot of the Hardware Unboxed community when I did that, so hopefully Hardware Canucks' community is a little less toxic. But again, I appreciate you guys for staying to the end of the video. I hope y'all have a great day. We'll catch you in the next one. Oh yeah, Doom Eternal.